The expeditious movement of vehicles plays an essential supporting role in the operation of any aerodrome. Wherever possible, the areas in which vehicles and aircraft operate are segregated. However, there are many occasions when vehicles need to move on the aircraft maneuvering areas for maintenance purposes or in direct support of aircraft operations. Procedures governing the movement of vehicles vary widely from aerodrome to aerodrome, but certain factors which must be taken into account when driving on an aerodrome are common to all. Aircraft are not as maneuverable as vehicles. The visibility from an aircraft cockpit for ground movement purposes is more restricted than from a vehicle. For these reasons, drivers of vehicles operating close to aircraft must be extremely vigilant and comply in full with local procedures and ATC instructions. Correct RT operating techniques must be observed by all users. It is important that a continuous listening watch is maintained by all vehicles on the aircraft movement areas, not only in case of further instructions from the control tower, but also so that drivers can be made aware of the movements and intended movements of other traffic. In this way, the risk of collision will be reduced. When making their initial call, drivers should identify themselves by their vehicle call sign and state their position and intended destination. The desired route may also be stated at this time. If the controller is too busy to give instructions, he will reply "Standby." This means that the driver must stay in his present position and wait until the controller calls back. A variation on this is when there is conflicting traffic along the route requested by the driver. In this situation, the controller may reply "Hold position," which means that the driver should not proceed until the controller calls back with position to move.
Kennington Ground, Worker 2-1, Gate 6. Request proceeds to Work in Progress, Hold Alpha.
Worker 2-1, proceed to Hold Alpha via Eastern Taxiway.
Hold Alpha via Eastern Taxiway, Worker 2-1.
All other responses from the controller should contain a clearly defined point to which the driver may proceed. In aircraft terms, we would call this the clearance limit. Of course, it may not be the intended destination, in which case the driver must stop at this point and request permission before going any further.
Stephenville Ground, Fire Tree. At fire practice site, request return to fire station.
Fire Tree, proceed to hold Delta 2 via Taxiway Delta. Cross runway 26 and call vacated.
Hold Delta 2 via Taxiway Delta, Wilco, Fire 3. Fire 3, runway 26 vacated.
Fire Tree, roger.
Fire 3 at hold Delta 2.
Fire Tree, roger. Clear to proceed to fire station. Call runway Tree 1 vacated.
Proceed to fire station Wilco, Fire 3. Fire Tree, runway Tree 1 vacated.
Permission to proceed on the apron may include such instructions regarding other traffic as are thought necessary to ensure safe operation.
Georgetown Apron, Tanker Fife at Gate 11, request proceed Gate 20.
Tanker 5, give way to Oxbow 7 Tree 7 on your right. Then proceed to Gate 26. Caution, jet blast.
Contact with 737, Wilco, Tanker 5.
Drivers should note carefully the position to which they may proceed, particularly where the intended route involves crossing a runway. Some aerodromes may have procedures that will allow vehicles to proceed to a holding point on the movement area and then request runway crossing instructions. Under no circumstances shall a driver cross a runway unless positive permission has been given and acknowledged. A runway vacated report shall not be made until the vehicle is clear of the designated runway area.
Kennington Ground, Worker 2-1. By the control tower, request proceeds to the maintenance area.
Worker 2-1, proceed via Southern Taxiway to holding point Charlie.
Via Southern Taxiway to holding point Charlie, Worker 2-1. Worker 2-1 at holding point Charlie.
Worker 2-1, stand by. Worker 2-1, cross runway 06 to Northwest Taxiway. Report runway vacated.
Worker 2-1, crossing runway 06. Worker 2-1, runway vacated.
Worker 2-1, roger. Proceed to maintenance area.
Wilco, Worker 2-1.
If a vehicle is operating on the runway, it must be instructed to leave the runway when it is expected that an aircraft will be landing or taking off.
Worker 1-8, vacate runway 24. Take next right. Report runway vacated.
Wilco, Worker 1-8. Worker 1-8, runway vacated.
Worker 1-8, roger.
When a vehicle is moving on the movement area, it may be necessary to inform the vehicle of a potentially dangerous situation and to instruct it to stop.
Worker 2-1, stop immediately. 737, moving from stand 6.
Worker 2-1, stopping.
Drivers of vehicles required to tow aircraft should not assume that the receiving station is aware that an aircraft is to be towed. The performance and maneuverability of ground vehicles is obviously considerably reduced when towing aircraft, and this is taken into account when instructions are issued to such vehicles. Therefore, in order to avoid any confusion and as an aid to identification, drivers should state the type and, where applicable, the operator of the aircraft to be towed.
Kennington Ground, Tug 07, request tow Oxbow 737 from maintenance area to stand 1.
Tug 07, proceed to holding point Romeo. Report at Romeo.
Report at Romeo, Tug 07.